This video is about a topical issue of today's world, implantable microchips in humans. Microchips are integrated circuits encased in small glass capsules. They are comparable to the size of a rice grain and are implanted inside the human body. Microchips can receive and transmit radio signals. They communicate with the microchip reader by sending their identification numbers on being triggered. Microchips are usually implanted underneath the skin between the forefinger and the thumb. The implant is done using a needle and low dose of anesthesia. It resembles a small surgery and is done by a trained practitioner. After the implant, our hands can work just the same as our contactless debit and credit cards. We can easily view our implants via X-rays. The first person to willingly microchip himself was Dr. Kevin Warwick, a British scientist and engineer. In 1998, he implanted a microchip in his forearm and used it for basic purposes like opening doors and operating light switches. The chip was removed from his body after 9 days and has been kept in Science Museum of London since then. In 2002, he implanted microchips in his own and his wife's brains. These chips were linked to nearby computers and with each other. Dr. Warwick's long-term vision is to use microchips to control electronic devices and communicate with other human beings. Hence, he is called Captain Cyborg. Today, he is 66 years old and advocates for microchipping humans. Ever since the success of the first microchip implant, we have seen a steady development in this field. In 2009, another scientist, Dr. Mark Gasson, implanted a microchip in his hand. In 2010, in an experiment, he infected his chip with a computer virus. He noted that when the computers in his lab read his infected microchip, they became infected and started replicating the virus. When his colleagues attempted to enter the lab using their own chips, the virus from the computer infected their chips as well. This experiment reveals the vulnerability of microchips and forces us to think about possible ramifications of implanting them. Now I will tell you some of the common applications of these chips. This is Steve Norton from England. He is 33 years old and has implanted a chip in his hand. He uses it to open his house and office doors and enter and start his car, among other things. Microchips are also being used to make payments. They work the same as contactless debit and credit cards, but instead of scanning cards, we scan our own hands. Ultimately, chips will replace cards and wallets and minimize thefts. In countries like Sweden, microchips have gained wide popularity. Thousands of Swedes have implanted microchips due to the simple appeal of not having to carry their keys and train tickets. Swedes tend to play less concern on data privacy issues, which explains the popularity and acceptance of microchips in the country. The service sector in Sweden is supporting this transition by placing microchip scanners everywhere. Many employers in Sweden, such as Epicenter, are giving their employees the option to get microchipped so they can operate security doors, copiers, and pay for lunches with ease. Pretty soon, Sweden will become a cashless society. People are also using these chips to control light switches and other devices in their homes. It has been argued that microchip can simplify daily life activities for people with artificial limbs, especially microchips in combination with smart homes where every household device can be controlled by a microchip can improve the quality of life of people with disabilities. Microchips can also act as human GPS trackers, which can be useful in locating someone who is lost or kidnapped. Many people are considering microchipping dementia patients to increase their independence while ensuring their safety. Microchips are also being used for law enforcement purposes. Prisoners are being microchipped so they can easily be tracked if they escaped. Gun owners are preventing illegal uses of their guns by microchipping themselves and their guns. Microchips are also being implanted in teeth that can be useful in identifying victims of natural disasters and crimes. Microchips have many applications in the health sector. For example, they are being used to access patients' medical records in hospitals' databases. In 2004, FDA declared VeriChip medically safe to use for this purpose. People with diabetes, arthritis, cancer, and other diseases are being implanted with microchips that can provide optimum drug dosages and minimize drug side effects. Cochlear implants can improve hearing ability of people. It may be an option when hearing aids do not provide the clarity of sound needed to understand speech and spoken language. Similar implants exist for eyes as well. In the future, microchips will be used to diagnose and treat cancer while it is still in its early stages. They will also be used to create artificial organs. In an ongoing project led by Dr. Roy and Dr. Fissel, artificial kidneys are being manufactured with the help of microchips. Future microchips will be operated via body heat and will be able to do voice recognition and vital sign tracking. This will be useful in tracking the trajectory of several medical conditions, including heart diseases, dementia, and Parkinson's disease, and for providing timely medical help to patients. It is also believed that in the future, microchips will be used to enhance human abilities in both able-bodied and limited ability individuals. Able-bodied individuals will be able to enhance their cognitive functions, especially memory, concentration, attention, and ability to learn new skills and languages with a simple brain implant. People with limited ability will be able to overcome their limitations and live a better life. For example, in 2012, two people who had been paralyzed for years were able to reach and grasp items around them by controlling a robotic arm with implanted chips in their brains. Implanted microchips have received their fair share of opposition. Opponents consider microchips to be wrong and hazardous to health. Opponents claim that implanted chips can cause cancer by citing several animal studies and want FDA to revoke the approval to use it for medical purposes. FDA itself has recognized several health hazards such as adverse tissue reactions and incompatibility with medical equipment such as MRI. It is feared that microchips can transmit electrical currents from the MRI magnets and burn the patient. Removing an implanted chip requires painstaking surgery that has been described by patients as difficult, time-consuming, and expensive. A big problem is locating the microchip itself, which typically cannot be felt under the skin and migrates to a different location within the arm or the body after a while. A sensor, X-ray, and monitors are needed to locate the chip. Afterwards, the chip cannot simply be slid out of the body like a piece of glass or splinter, but rather a plastic surgeon must cut away the scar tissue that forms around the chip. Many religious groups identify microchips as the mark of human beast and number 666. which is known as the devil's number in the book of Revelation. People have been skeptical about the privacy of these devices. Hackers can corrupt, steal, and replicate data on the chips, which can lead to identity theft. Objectors insist that microchips will ultimately result in an authoritarian society. They believe that governments can use these chips to monitor people's environments and play subconscious messages directly to people's brains. Hence, they fear that this technology would give governments the ability to control and manipulate their citizens. Similarly, it is believed that these microchips will enable employers to monitor their workers and keep track of them all the time. If microchips became mandatory, then employers will be able to track their employees' health and work activities and may use this information unethically. What do you think about microchip implants? Would you consider microchipping yourself in the coming days? Let us know by taking the survey below.